Is it better to rent a home versus an apartment? Find out in this episode. Welcome everyone to this episode of the AskJasonGelios show. I'm Jason Gelios, Michigan Realtor. Really appreciate you guys tuning in to this episode where I'm going to be sharing some of the pros and cons of renting a home and then some pros and cons of renting an apartment. And it may seem like, you know, apples and oranges, which in my opinion it is, but everybody's situation is different. And so somebody may benefit from one versus the other and reverse. So before we dive into this though, I always ask this on every single episode that I do. If you're not following me on social media, please go ahead and do that. Choose your platform or choose them all. I have those links in the description below. And of course, visit my website. It's all about therealestate.com. So I put together some stuff here and I'm gonna keep this nice and short. Try to keep it short for you here because there's a lot more pros and cons, but I put together a few for each. Now, the pros, okay, let's start with renting a home. And this doesn't have anything to do with purchasing, although it could be similar, but renting a home. Some of the pros are space. Okay, that's probably the number one, is that you get a lot more space. You get backyard, you get a garage. Many apartments don't have garages, right? They have a carport or whatnot. Some of the fancier apartments do have garages, but for the most part, you get a lot more space. And you also get a basement too, so a lot more space. The second one is privacy. You get more privacy. Typically with a home, excuse me, you don't have to worry so much about somebody being above you, below you, on each side of you, whatever. You have a lot more privacy. And the third one is leisure. You can enjoy a home more versus an apartment. And so with renting a home, you can go out in the backyard. Maybe there's a pool involved. You can enjoy the backyard. You can go in the front yard, have your kids play or hang out. It's a lot more leisurely versus renting an apartment where many apartments you're in a confined unit. Okay. Now there are cons to renting a home, and here's a few. Distance and convenience. So many times apartments are closer to things like stores, amenities, restaurants, and things like that. Many homes are too, but distance and convenience, okay, could be a huge con because many times you have to drive further to get to those places, okay? And it is out there. So the second one is more maintenance. There's more maintenance with a home. When you rent a home, you have to take care of things. You have to take care of the lawn, unless you have that negotiated by the landlord, which most of the time when you're renting a home, you're in charge of the landscaping, the maintenance, keeping things up on the outside. Snow plow, right, for the driveway, things like that. And then the third one is it can be pricier than renting an apartment. Many times it is costly. It's more pricey per month to rent a home versus actually renting an apartment. Also, as I mentioned, the maintenance costs. You have to maintain the outside of the home as well as the inside for the most part. You may have a special agreement with the landlord, but there's more costs, okay? Now let's dive into the pros of renting an apartment, okay? Now, this could also be a townhome, by the way, same thing. So almost the same thing. So, okay, the cost. It costs a lot less to actually rent an apartment. You're not in charge of as many things. If something goes wrong in the apartment, usually it's on the complex, landlord, whomever, okay? The second pro for renting an apartment is the ease of moving out. It's easier to move out. You can just, at the end of your lease, say, I'm moving out, and you move on to your next chapter, okay? A third pro is convenience. Apartments are convenient. They're usually, again, like I mentioned earlier, they're closer to stores, restaurants, whatever the case may be. So they're very convenient. Something happens with the water heater. Most apartments usually have a maintenance repair person who lives in the complex who can help. So if the water heater dies halfway through the night, they can probably come out pretty quick. Now, there are cons to renting an apartment, and I have 3 right here for you, okay? One is the lack of home improvement. You can't really improve an apartment. You can't upgrade it, can't do much. You can change the paint and things like that, but you can't really improve or renovate the apartment, okay? And the second one is limited space. You have very little space in apartments. Even the higher end apartments aren't that big compared to renting a home, okay? Unless you get into crazier cities like New York, LA, things like that, where which those are $1 million apartments. And the third one is nuisances, okay? So you're gonna have neighbors, maybe one of them parties a lot, which can also happen if you rent a home, but it's more likely in an apartment. So you things like that. Maybe there's not enough spaces, visitor spots when you have people over. Just in general, there's a lot more nuisances. So, and obviously noise from your neighbors, because if you're renting an apartment, you're attached to other units. So I hope you guys found this valuable. If you have a pro or a con of either renting a home or renting an apartment, share that in the comments. I'd love to see what you guys think. Love to read your thoughts on whether or not you feel it's better to rent an apartment or a home. Every situation is different, so anyone looking to rent either or should look at their situation and say, okay, do I want to pay a little bit more and rent a home and have all these pros that I mentioned, or should I rent an apartment and have those pros, right? And spend a little bit less. So I really appreciate you guys watching this episode. Again, be sure to follow me on social media and be sure to visit my website. It's allabouttherealestate.com. Thanks for watching. Thanks everyone for watching this episode of the Ask Jason Gelios show. Be sure to visit the links in the description below to pick up your copy of my real estate book, Think Like a Realtor. It's a little book about buying and selling residential real estate through the eyes of a realtor. It's real world advice, tips, whether you're a new agent in the business or you are a home buyer or even looking to sell a home. This is great advice. So I really appreciate it if you guys visit those links, pick up your copy, and go ahead and share a review, good or bad, if you like it, if you hate it, okay? But get your copy today. Thank you.